Shemel Shah. Yahweh Shemel Shah. Barakatah Yahweh Shah. Barakatah Yahweh. Barakatah Yahweh. Barakatah Yahweh Shah.
Well, I came upon a spot that was simply the most beautiful spot I'd ever seen in my life. And I said at that time, if I ever had the power, I would build a house there. I always wanted a house in the mountains. When I was a kid, I wanted a house in the mountains. And I said, if I ever get the chance, I'll build a house in the mountains. And then it came, and I did. And I built it on the spot that to me was, as I said, the most beautiful spot I'd ever seen.
Isaiah 62. For Zion's sake will I not hold my peace, and for Jerusalem's sake I will not rest, until the righteousness thereof go forth as brightness, and the salvation thereof as a lamp that burneth. And the Gentiles shall see thy righteousness, and all kings thy glory. And thou shalt be called by a new name, which the mouth of the Lord shall name. Thou shalt also be a crown of glory in the hand of the Lord, and a royal diadem in the hand of thy God. Thou shalt no more be termed forsaken, neither shall thy land any more be termed desolate. But thou shalt be called Hephzibah, and thy land Beulah. But the Lord delighteth in thee, and thy land shall be married. For as a young man marrieth a virgin, so shall thy sons marry thee. And as the bridegroom rejoiceth over the bride, so shall thy God rejoice over thee.
It was simply the most beautiful spot I've ever seen in my life.
So at the right hand of the Lord, there are pleasures forevermore. So we can look at the earth today, and there are still, even though this devil has destroyed and ruined the earth and polluted the world, polluted the air, polluted the waters, polluted the food and the people and everything, and the earth itself, there are still places on earth that are so breathtaking and so beautiful, even though it's still tainted, but it's just so beautiful to look at. You know, being there can probably take off, you know, or bring you back 5, 10 years, make you 5 or 10 years younger, 15, 20 years younger, just by the presence, the aura of their place. So just imagine how much greater the kingdom is going to be when the Most High has on his right hand there are pleasures forevermore. You know, imagine how much greater and how much more beautiful the kingdom of heaven is going to be once it's established. You know, and these are things that we have to keep in mind because this is what we're fighting for.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Kakwadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to us, my brothers. And peace and blessing, salutations to the hopeful that got there pushing his word in truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners who may have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. All right, so what I want to get into today is dealing with Daniel, all right, chapter 11, all right, which is a very, tedious chapter, dealing with the Syrian wars, all right, and if you ever heard the term, the Syrian wars, it's pretty much, the rivalry, okay, between the Ptolemaic Empire, all right, and the Seleucid Empire, all right, which came from the empire, all right, of the Greeks under Alexander. Okay, as we're gonna go into it. Okay, Alexander would die, after conquering, most of the known world, and his kingdom will be split up into 4 parts. Okay, ultimately. All right, you have what you call the Diocletian Wars, between the generals of Alexander, all right, and the two prominent all right kingdoms, okay, will be the Seleucids, okay, where you get, the line of the Seleucid and the Antiochus, okay, kings, okay, then you have the Ptolemaic kings, that will come from, the Ptolemaic dynasty, in Egypt, okay. So this is, tedious history, so we're going to be going back and forth, it's going to be a lot of, reading. um uh Me and El Kazak tried to do it yesterday, but the internet wouldn't allow it, and I see why, because there was some things I had to tighten up on, so yeah, we're gonna go through it. Like I said, it's gonna be tedious, but this is a a heavy chapter. And what I want to do before we go into the breakdown, I want to play the beginning of this video, because the Syrian wars was also known as the period of the Hellenist period. Okay, the Hellenistic period, when Greek culture, okay, pretty much bled into all the cultures of their region. Okay, Greek culture, became, all right, the a standard, okay, in the earth, during the Hellenistic period, the time of these Syrian wars. And in that time, all right, our people, the Southern Kingdom, all right, then it was known as at this time it was known as Judea, okay, and this is where you see the majority of our people, become Hellenized, all right. Matter of fact, before we get that, okay, um, let's start here in the book of Galatians chapter 3, you know. Matter of fact, let me just share the screen. All right. Let me share the Bible real quick, and then we'll get that video. All right. Because to understand the New Testament, all right, is pivotal. Now, you don't have to understand, this detailed history that we're going to go into, okay? But you have to understand, the Hellenistic period and the effect that it had on us, okay, as a people, okay? So when you go here, all right, to Galatians, this is the book of Galatians chapter 3, verse 28. All right. So this is Galatians 3 and 28. There is neither Jew nor Greek. Okay. There is neither bond nor free. There is neither male nor female, for you are all one in Yahweh Shah Hamashiach. Okay. So why is Apostle Paul, saying there's neither Jew nor Greek? Okay, because Greek doesn't represent all the heathens. Okay. But when you see this word Greek in the New Testament, there's a lot of history, okay, that goes into there why Greek, is constantly mentioned in the New Testament. All right, you go here to Colossians. I want to say is it Colossians, okay, 3:11. Okay, so this is Colossians 3:11. It says I started at 9. It says Colossians 3:9 says, lie not one to another, seeing that you have put off the old man with his deeds, okay, and have put on the new man, which is renewed in the knowledge after the image of him that created him, whether says where there is neither Greek nor Jew, circumcision nor uncircumcision, barbarian, Scythian, bond nor free, but Yahweh Shai is all and in all. Okay, and they're speaking of the believers of the circumcision and the believers of the uncircumcision, which were a lot of them was going under the banner of Greeks. Okay, because of the effect, the influence that the Hellenistic period had on the earth, on our people, but on the earth. You see, that became a way, just like today, westernization, has become a way. It's a culture, it's a standard of living that different nationalities, all right, all these different nationalities of the world, okay, have taken on, a form of what westernization, which is the modern Hellenization. Okay, so I think it speaks about it again in I think that's Romans 10. So like, just to establish, because you have to wonder like why, even in the church, even though I was in the church, I was like, why is emphasis on Greek? Why I keep saying Greek, you know? But as we study the history, we go into the history, you see why. All right. Now um yep, it says, this is Romans 10 and 11. For the scriptures say, whosoever, and see, Christians, when they hear whosoever, they include the earth. Okay. But that's not who that's referring to. Okay. It's talking to two parties of people. The circumcision which remained in Judea. Okay. Because, like I say, this Hellenistic period created two sects of Israelites. Okay. It created, the circumcision, those that, stayed loyal, to the way. All right. And then you had those, that became Hellenized. Okay. So this whosoever is retaining to Israelites of the circumcision and the uncircumcision. Okay. Not the earth. It says, whosoever believeth on him shall not be ashamed, for there is no difference between the Jew and the Greek. For the same Lord over all is rich unto all that call upon him. Okay. So this is, all right, addressed, all right, to Israelites that knew that they was Israelites. Okay. That knew about the covenants of our forefathers, the promises. Okay. The oracles of the Most High. Okay. But you had those, all right, that were scattered. Some had to flee, the persecution under the Greeks. Okay. Some of them, their forefathers, willingly went into Hellenization, and they're descendants of that. Okay. But it created, all right, two factions, okay, amongst Israelites, but it's all Israelites. So let's go. Let's play this. All right. And hopefully the video will kind of sum it up as well. So you're gonna play the first few minutes of it. And it's going into the lead up to the Maccabean revolt. All right. So this is the build up to the Maccabean revolt, and this is from the channel Kings and Generals. Okay. Maccabean anti Hellenic rebellion. Okay. So I'm gonna put this in the description box. Now, this guy, you can tell he doesn't believe. And one thing about these certain documentaries, they don't believe in the Most High, and they try to downplay, the miracles done by the Most High. When it comes to these certain documentaries, they try to, just make it analytical. Okay, but it has some good info, so you can just, spit out the bones. Okay, but let's play this first few minutes, all right, and then we'll go into the breakdown, Lord will.
Every winter, Jewish communities across the globe come together.
And also, he say the ish word, all right, but we know, all right, this was, all right, Jews, okay, the southern kingdom, Benjamin, all right, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, okay, well, the tribes, they use that ish word,
They're in celebration of the festival of Hanukkah. The image of the menorah and its iconic 8 candles shining through the dark winter night is one of the most visually recognizable aspects of traditional Jewish culture. But from where does this ancient holiday ritual stem? To answer, we must go back 2,200 years to a time when the descendants of Alexander the Great ruled in the land of Judea, and tell a story of the ancient Jewish people's struggle to win liberty against the forces of the Hellenic world. Our sponsors allow us to release videos regularly without missing a beat, so share one and fight up to 5 to play on mobile or PC, and 1 month of premium subscription for free. The offer is only available for 30 days, so don't. By the era of classical antiquity, the independent kingdoms of Israel and Judah were in terminal decline. As a result, the history of the Jewish people soon came to be defined by the carousel of foreign empires that took turns conquering and subsequently ruling the ancestral Hebrew homeland. First came the Assyrians, then the Babylonians, then the Persians, who ruled the Jews with a reasonably fair and light hand. Finally, in 332 BC, the Macedonian phalanxes of Alexander would steamroll the Achaemenid Empire out of existence, establishing Classical Greek as the dominant language and culture of the Near East. It is here that the Jewish people became subjects of the Greek world. When Alexander died, his massive Macedonian empire fractured into several monarchies, ruled by his closest comrades and later their descendants. The so-called Diadochi kingdoms were constantly at war with one another, and the region of Judea, being situated in the borderland between the Ptolemies of Egypt and Seleucids of Syria, became a battleground where the two Macedonian dynasties jockeyed for power and influence. Despite this, life remained fairly peaceful for the Hebrews. The Hellenistic kings generally used the same light touch the Persians had, interfering very little in the region's culture, religion, and internal politics. The Jewish people were ruled semi-autonomously by a high priest of the Judaic faith, who handled matters both religious and secular from the Great Temple of Jerusalem. In 198 BC, Antiochus III had finally expelled the Ptolemies out of Judea, putting the region firmly under the suzerainty of the Seleucid Empire. He lowered taxes and affirmed the Jewish people's freedom to live by their own faith and laws, and for now, Judea was content. Throughout world history, we often see subject peoples of a multi-ethnic empire willingly adopt the language and customs of said empire's rulers in an attempt to improve social mobility. So many Jewish peoples began to practice the Greek culture of their suzerains. This phenomenon, known as Hellenization, was perpetuated mainly by the upper strata of Jewish society, namely the wealthy priests, merchants, and aristocrats in urban Jerusalem. The Hellenization process was expedited in 175 BC, when the culturally traditionalist high priest, Ananias III, was deposed by his Philhellene brother Joshua, better known by his Greek name Jason. Jason would go on to wield his power as high priest to begin transforming Jerusalem into a classically Greek city by building a gymnasium and an ephebium, essentially community centers for Greek education and learning. He also sent Jewish athletes to compete in a mimicry of the Olympic Games hosted by the king in Tyre. There he offered a sacrificial tribute to the Greek demigod Hercules, to whom the games were dedicated. Perhaps his most radical policy was to allow non-Jews in Jerusalem to set idols of their gods within the Holy Temple itself. The fact that the high priest was openly tolerating and even promoting the polytheistic gods was deeply disturbing to many Jews who clung to their monotheist faith. This sentiment was especially strong in the poorer, rural communities of Judea, who had clung far closer to Orthodox Judaism. A strange situation was made worse in 175 BC, when one Antiochus IV Epiphanes became the Seleucid Basileus. Various ancient accounts describe him as a proto-Nero or Commodus, that is to say, erratic. His sobriquet, Epiphanes, meant manifested from God, but among his people he was secretly known by a variation of the title, Epimanes, which meant madman. It was him who in the first year of his rule supported Jason's coup against Ananias III, hoping a pro-Greek high priest would help Hellenize the Jews. However, only 3 years later, Antiochus decided that Jason wasn't Hellenizing Judea fast enough, so helped replace him with an even more pro-Hellenic priest, Menelaus.
So I asked ChatGPT to build me a Shopify store, and it said, no, we can't do that. But here,
With that matter settled, Antiochus then marched with his armies into Egypt, aiming to double the size of his empire by seizing the Ptolemaic heartland.
So that's the gist of that. And now all this happened. Okay, all this is happening after, what we're about to go into in Daniel the 11th chapter. Daniel the 11th chapter is going to build up to this point. Okay, because at this time this is getting close to the end of, the Greek, empire, which eventually is going to be absorbed by the Romans. Okay, that's why you had an era known as the Greco-Roman Empire, and then it would just be, Rome. Okay, so this is, what we're finna go into is going to be the build up, to, all right, the Maccabean revolt, and then, eventually, the end of the persecution of the Greeks, against the Jews, and the end, all right, of the Seleucid Empire, okay, and the beginning, of Rome, the fourth beast, okay. So, yeah, let's go here to Daniel the 11th chapter, and I got it in the NLT for a little more easier read, okay. So, let's start at 1. All right, like I said, it's gonna be a lot of reading, a lot of history. It's a tedious chapter, so bear with me. It's on Daniel 11:1. It says, "Also in the first year of Darius the Mede, even I stood to confirm, all right, and to strengthen him. And now will I show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia, and the fourth, all right, shall be far richer than they all." Okay, and this fourth king is speaking of Xerxes. Okay, now when you go into the Persian Empire, the first king, okay, was Cyrus. Okay, but then this fourth count starts after Cyrus, so his son Cambyses, okay, he will stand up in his father's place, and Cambyses is the one, all right, that conquered Egypt, because Darius the Mede, took down Babylon, okay, under Cyrus, and Cyrus took down Lydia, and Cambyses will take down, all right, Egypt. When you go into, all right, the 7th chapter, when it described the Medo-Persian Empire as a bear, and it had 3 ribs in his mouth. Well, those 3 ribs were Lydia, all right, Babylon, and Egypt. Okay, those pretty much those superpowers in the region that was absorbed into the Medo-Persian Empire. Okay, so Cambyses took down Egypt, after the death of his father. Okay, and what happened? You had a usurper on his throne while he was in Egypt. Okay, and Cambyses, all right, would die, coming back from Egypt. Okay, and the usurper, all right, would be that second king, but then he was killed, all right, under the command of Darius. Okay, and Darius will become king. Okay, Darius the first, or Darius the Great. Okay, he will be that third king. All right, and the son of Darius is Xerxes. Okay, which will make him the fourth king, which shall be richer than they all. Okay, now when you keep reading, which it's a Xerxes from the movie 300. Have you ever seen that movie, A Night with the King? Dealing with Esther, okay, and Mordecai. All right, that was the same king. All right, Xerxes. All right, he's the fourth that will be richer than they all. It says, and by his strength, all right, through his riches, he shall stir up all. All right, stir up all against the realm of Grecia. Okay, so when it says he should stir up, all right, all against the realm of Grecia, okay, let's go into this history real quick, because you had a thing called you had a time what that was called the Greco-Persian Wars. Okay, this is a rivalry. By the time Alexander, when he takes down, the Medo-Persian Empire, they had this. It was a long rivalry way before he was thought of. You know, this rivalry went way before Alexander. Okay, so let's go here to uh. See, I got a few tabs pulled up. All right, yep. So let's go to Philip. Now let's go to Greco-Persian Wars. All right, then we get to Philip the Macedon. All right, and if a brother can put that, First Maccabees for me, First Maccabees chapter 1 through I think 6 or 7. The brother can post that for me, while I'm reading this. Okay, it says the Greco-Persian Wars, all right, also often called the Persian Wars, were a series of conflicts between the Achaemenid Empire and the Greek city-states. That started in 499 BC. Okay, and Alexander, he didn't sit the throne until 336 BC. So you're talking about, was it 64, 99? So you're talking about, say 100, and 63 years before Alexander would sit the throne when this rivalry, kicked off. Okay, and it says it lasted until 449 BC. The collision between the fractious political worlds of the Greeks and the enormous empire of the Persians began when Cyrus the Great conquered the Greek inhabited region of Ionia in 554 BC. Struggling to control the independent minded cities of Ionia, the Persians appointed tyrants okay, to rule each of them. This will prove to be the source of much trouble for the Greeks and Persians alike. Okay, so when you let's jump down. We're gonna go into some more history. All right, so now we get to Darius. Okay, Darius the first of Darius the Great. It says, matter of fact, let me read just up a little bit. Okay, it says in 490 BC, a second force. All right, it's not. I'm gonna read here. It says the first Persian invasion of Greece began in 492 with the Persian general, all right, Mardonius successfully resubjugating Thrace and Macedon before, all right, before several mishaps forced an early end to the rest of the campaign. In 490 BC, a second force was sent to Greece, this time across the Aegean Sea under the command of Datis. Now, all this has happened under the rulership of Darius. Okay, so you had those first invasions under Darius. Okay, so jumping down some more. Okay, it says Darius then began to plan to completely conquer Greece, but died in 486 BC. All right, and who picked up the mantle? And responsibility for the conquest passed to his son Xerxes, the fourth king, who would stir up the realm against Greece. In 480 BC, Xerxes personally led the second. He personally led the second Persian invasion of Greece with one of the largest ancient armies ever assembled. Okay, victory over the allied Greek states at the famous Battle of Thermopylae. Okay, allowed the Persians to torch and evacuated Athens and overrun most of Greece. However, while seeking to destroy the combined Greek fleet, the Persians suffered a severe defeat, okay, at the Battle of Salamis the following year, and uh, confederated Greeks, okay. All right, so now he's causing the Greeks, to come together. Okay, and confederated Greeks went on the offensive, decisively defeating the Persian army at the Battle of Plataea and ending the invasion of the Greeks. Okay, and the invasion of Greece by the Achaemenid Empire. All right, so uh, Persia really could never, conquer the Greeks. All right, and it was meant to be like that because the Greeks was the next beast to come in power. Okay, so you go into, all right, it says in Daniel, the second chapter, reading again, it says, and now will I show the truth. Behold, there shall stand up 3 kings in Persia, okay, and the fourth, all right, shall be richer than they all, which is Xerxes, and by his strength and through his riches he shall stir up all against the realm of Grecia, okay, which hey, he had the biggest army because it cost a lot of money, to raise a military, man, okay, and what that did, was create a rivalry between Persia, okay, and all right, the Greeks. Now, real quick, I want to get this history too, to kind of bridge the gaps. Okay, so you had their rivalry started, during the time of Xerxes between the Persians and Greeks. And then by the time you get on down to Philip, okay, which is the father of Alexander, okay. Mm, all right, so you go into it just real quick, just read a brief. All right, it says Philip the second of Macedon, all right, was the king of the ancient kingdom of Macedonia from 349 BC until his death in 336 BC. He was a member of the Argead dynasty, founders of the ancient kingdom, okay, and the father of Alexander the Great. The rise of Macedon, including the conquest of political and consolidation of most classical Greek during his reign, he achieved by his reformation of the army, the establishment of the Macedonian phalanx that proved critical in securing victories on the battlefield. So Alexander was groomed, for his role in prophecy. His father was a conquering king, and the general and the what they call strategic, all right, a strategist, and it says his extensive use of siege engines and his use of effective diplomacy and marriage alliances after defeating the Greek city-states of Athens, all right, and Thebes at the Battle of Charonia in 338. Philip led the effort to establish a federation of Greek states known as the League of Corinth. Okay, so this is what Alexander, all right, the Greek inherited from his father, was a unified, all right, Greece military. Okay, hey, because he had business to handle, man. You see, all right, and his father was the head, of this league. Okay, he was. It says with him elected as hegemon. Okay, all right, and commander in chief of Greece for a planned invasion of the Achaemenid Empire, the Persian of Persia. Okay. However, his assassination by a royal bodyguard, all right, led to his immediate succession of his son Alexander, who would go on to invade the Achaemenid Empire in his father's stead. Okay, so you see, Alexander had to be, that notable horn. We read about in Daniel the 8th chapter. So the Lord set it up for Alexander. He pretty much had the military on deck. Everything he needed to fulfill prophecy, man. Okay, so let's just go here. All right, I think the brother got it. Let's see. All right, this the All right, it's the brother Deshaun 72 to say First Maccabees 1:1, and it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Shittim, had smitten Darius, the king of the Persians, and this is Darius the third. This is way on down. After Darius the Great. This is not the same Darius, which was the father of Xerxes. It says, had smitten Darius, the king of Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead. okay, the first over Greece, and many, it says, and made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth. Okay, so Alexander, the spirit was on him to go on his run, and he carried on, okay, the campaign, all right, of his father. Okay, so let's go back to Daniel and we'll read down on it, Maccabees some more in a minute. All right, so this is Daniel 11 and 3. It says, and a mighty king shall stand up that shall rule with great dominion, which is Alexander, that we're reading about, and do according to his will. Okay, we just read where he was able to slew many kings of the earth. All right, it says, and when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken and shall be divided towards the four winds, all right, of heaven, which represents four directions. Okay, what you had the solution, okay, will be in the north. Ptolemies will be in the south. All right, and you will have Lysimachus, okay, that will be in the in Lysimachus and Cassandra, okay, will be in the east. Okay, so when you go here, no, Lysimachus and Cassandra was in the west. Okay, with the Lysimachus, Cassandra being in the far west. But they was divided. His kingdom was divided amongst those four generals. Lysimachus, Cassandra, all right, Cassandra, and the Seleucids and the Ptolemies. Okay, it says, and not to his prosperity. Okay, because he had a son, by Roxanne. All right, which they killed his son and his wife Roxanne. Okay, not according to his dominion which he ruled, for the kingdom shall be plucked up, all right, even for others besides those. Okay, so none of his heir, it didn't go to his heir or his relatives. All right, it was plucked up, and fought over amongst his four generals. Okay, and you go back to the Maccabees, and it explains it. Okay, so let's go back to Maccabees 1 and 3, and it says, and went through to the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. All right, proud. Okay, and he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. And after these, all right, he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Okay, which he died, after 12 years of ruling. He conquered quick and he died quick. Showing that the Lord, he was just a throwaway too. Okay, everybody loves to brag about, Alexander. Okay, they call him the Great. Okay, well, see, he was just a tool of the Lord. Okay, the Lord great. You see, this First Maccabees 1 and 6. Wherefore he called his servants such as were honorable and had been brought up with him from his youth. And Ptolemy, that was one of his best friends. It speaks about, you go into the history, him and Ptolemy, was real close. It says, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. Okay, so Alexander reigned 12 years and then died, and his servants bear rule in his place. Okay, and this is what is finna get into, all right, with these Syrian wars. Okay, because if these four generals bear rule, all right, you're gonna have what we're finna go into now. Is going to go into the king, all right, of the north, which the north represents the Seleucid Empire, and the south represents the Ptolemies. So now we're going to go into the rivalry of, the Ptolemies, okay, and the Seleucids, okay. There's going to be, a several decades, of back and forth. Okay, you really not, in the Syrian wars between those two houses. Okay, Cassander, all right, the house of Cassander, the kingdom of Cassander and Lysimachus, they really, you know, didn't play a part. All right, they have a part when it comes to these Syrian wars. Okay, now this is Daniel 11:5. It says, "And the king of the south shall be strong." And this king of the south is talking about Ptolemy Soter. Okay, the first, king of the Ptolemaic Empire. All right, and one of his princes. Okay, and one of those princes. All right, it says, "And one of his princes, and he shall be strong above him and have dominion, and his dominion shall be great." And they're speaking of Ptolemy Philadelphus. Okay, this is speaking of Ptolemy Philadelphus. Matter of fact, I'm gonna put this chart up here while I read this in the background so we can get a visual. So let me put this chart up here. All right. So I'll just read the scriptures in the background, so y'all can have a visual. So let me share this. All right, but this told me. And this a pretty good series too. Now they go off on particular points. Some things. The spirit. I had to pray on. I had to pray on it. But we go off on particular points, but they got a good information dealing with the history. So we're gonna go over with the, the accurate. Because on this it called the Prince of the Covenant. Speaking of one of the sons of Antiochus, but the priest of the covenant, speaking of, all right, the high priest. Okay, well, I say he got some good info as far as what was happening. Okay, well, he got a few bones in it, but that's why we doing this now. Okay, but I want to put this chart up here. So like.
The book of Maccabees chapter 6 records that when Antiochus heard about this.
All right, so just for a visual. All right, so let's go back into Daniel. So Daniel 11:5, it says, "And the king of the south shall be strong," okay, which is Ptolemy Soter, all right, and one of his princes, all right, one of his sons, and he shall be strong above him, all right, which he made his son a co-ruler before he even died, because there's a spirit, of a leader, and a conqueror, okay, and under, Ptolemy Philadelphus, all right, the Ptolemaic Empire, okay, was established. Okay, he won, many battles, he conquered, territories, and he, solidified the Ptolemaic, empire. Okay, so that was his son, all right, Ptolemy Philadelphus. Okay, as you can see it on the chart. Let me know if y'all can see the chart. Let me know if the chart showing up or you can see the name of these different kings. Because there was a lot of Seleucids, there was a lot of Antiochus, and there's a lot of Ptolemies. So pinpoint it down. But yeah, let's keep going on in Daniel. All right. So this is Daniel 11:6. It says, and in the end of years they shall join themselves together, for the king daughter of the south, all right, shall come to the king of the north to make an agreement. Okay. Now this is, the daughter, okay, of Ptolemy, all right, Philadelphus, Bernice, all right. He's going to give her, all right, to marry Antiochus the second, all right, Theos, okay, as an alliance, Okay, so the king of the south will give his daughter to the king of the north, okay, to make an agreement. All right, but she shall not retain the power of the arm, neither shall he stand nor his arm, but she shall be given up, and they that brought her, and he that begot her, and he that strengthened her in these times. So what will happen, okay, is her father, all right, Ptolemy, Philadelphus would die, and when he would die, Antiochus, would put his daughter away, Bernice, and go back to his old wife. All right, uh, is Laodice. All right, her name was Laodice. All right, but Laodice was still bitter about her being put away for Berenice, and she, okay, would um poison Antiochus and put him to death. So that alliance didn't have any more effect, because he put Berenice away. All right. Then it said, neither shall he stand, which he was poisoned and put to death, okay, by his wife, Laodice, okay. And then, Berenice, okay, will call upon, her brother that was now in power in the south, okay, which now you got Ptolemy. All right, let me see. So now you got Ptolemy, all right, the third, Eugates, all right, Ptolemy the third, all right, which is the brother of Bernice. Okay, he got the father, he got the throne from his father, Philadelphus. Okay, so now he's on the throne, okay, of the south, and you keep reading in Daniel, it says, but out of the branch of her roots, which is her brother, shall one stand up in his estate. So he would stand up in the estate of his father, Philadelphus. Okay, so Ptolemy the third, Euergetes, will stand up in the estate of his father, Philadelphus. Okay, which it will be Berenice's brother. It said, which shall come with an army and shall enter into the fortress of the king of the north, okay, and shall deal against them and shall prevail. So he would, and they killed his sister and his nephew, because she called him to try to establish, her son, to be the king of the Seleucid Empire. Okay. But the her people, because it says, but she shall not retain the power of the arm, neither shall he stand, nor his arm, but she shall be given up, and they that bought her. All right. So even, the people, okay, within the Seleucid Empire, okay, that was for Berenice, they, will allow her to be killed by Laodice, okay, and her son, okay. So she called upon her brother, and he pretty much came and invaded, okay, um, the north. All right, he invaded. Um, uh, 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 you had Seleucus the second, okay, was on the throne of the north. So he invaded, all right, and he got the upper hand, okay. And what he would do, as we read on, he's going to spoil, okay, the north, okay. And it says, um, but out of the branch of her roots, whereas her brother shall stand up in his estate, which shall come with an army and shall enter into the fortress of the king of the north, and shall deal against them, and shall prevail, and shall also carry captives into Egypt their gods, with their princes and with their precious vessels and silver of gold, and he shall continue more years than the king of the north. All right, which, all right, Ptolemy Euergetes, he lived longer than Seleucus, okay, and he spoiled, Seleucus had to give him 1,500 talents of silver to leave, And while he was leaving, he was looting, other lands of the Seleucid Empire and spoiling and taking, spoil back to Egypt. Okay, when I say he outlived, all right, Seleucus the second. Okay, verse 9 it says, "So the king of the south shall come into his kingdom and shall return into his own land." So Seleucus, okay, would invade. Um, he will invade the south. All right, but because he had uprisings in his kingdom in Asia Minor, he had to leave off, from the invasion and go and deal with the uprising, you know. So he had to return to his own land. All right. So going down, verse 10, it says, "But his sons shall be stirred up," okay, because Seleucia will die, all right, and he will have sons, all right, and you have Antiochus the third, which will be Antiochus the Great. Now, you go into his, individual story, he was probably the most active, okay, amongst, the Seleucid kings. That's why he's referred to as the Great, amongst that line of kings. Okay, but you had him and his brother, Seleucus, Serranus. Okay, these are the sons that Daniel 11 and 10 is talking about. His sons, okay, which is Antiochus the third, the great, shall be stirred up, okay, which also his brother Seleucus Serranus, and shall assemble a multitude of great forces. All right, so they raised, a military, and began, to plan a campaign to go into the south. Okay, but now his brother, all right, Seleucus Serranus, he died in the battle, before the campaign started. So it was just Antiochus. It says, "And one shall certainly come and overflow and pass through, then shall he return and be stirred up, even, all right, to his fortress." So what would happen, Antiochus, the third would invade, okay, um, would invade the south. Okay, and at this time you have a new Ptolemaic king, all right, which by this time is Ptolemy, all right, the fourth Philopator, all right, and he was known to be, you know, um, a lover of pleasure, okay, and they say he really, didn't even get, you know, he really didn't care about the invasion, as long as he was able to have his pleasures, but when the invasion made it to his fortress, he was stirred up and he beat, he beat the invasion of the north, okay, by Antiochus the Great. He beat them back, to their own realm, you know. So this is in the NLT. Let me read it in the. Let me pull this up in the KJV too. I'll be going back and forth. Sometimes the NLT, say it better. Sometimes the KJV, Like I say, this is tedious, so try and make concise as possible. All right, but when you go, all right, to Daniel 11. All right, Daniel 11 and 10, it says, "And his sons shall be stirred up and shall assemble a multitude of great forces, and one shall certainly come and overflow." And that one was Antiochus. All right, and he came, and, with overflow. I say he made it all the way to the fortress and passed through. Then shall he return and be stirred up, even to his fortress. And the king of the south shall be moved with choler, which is an agitation, and shall come forth and fight with him, even with the king of the north. And he shall set forth a great multitude, but the multitude um, shall be given into his hand. Okay, which Ptolemy, Philopator, okay, would overwhelm, all right, Antiochus and his forces, okay, and reverse the invasion and push them back, okay, into the Seleucid Empire, push him back into Asia. Okay, and it says, and when he had taken away the multitude, his heart shall be lifted up, and he shall cast down many tens of thousands, but he shall not be strengthened by it. Yeah, because you go into it, they talk about how Ptolemy Philopator, he really could have took down the whole Seleucid Empire if he would have pressed the war, you know. But he, just wanted to get back, to his pleasures, So once he got them niggas out of Egypt, he went back, to that party and BSing. He said his mind was lifted up. He wasn't tripping, but what he allowed was, Antiochus to regroup. Because what I said, but he shall not be strengthened by which he didn't gain, any new territory. You know, like they say he could, press the war, and started gaining territory and conquering, but he didn't get strengthened by that victory. He did just enough to get him out of Egypt. Okay, to get Antiochus out of Egypt. It says, "For the king of the north, okay, Antiochus, all right, shall return and shall set forth a multitude greater than the former, and shall certainly come after, all right, certain years with a great army and with much riches." So this is another invasion, okay, by the north, okay, and when you um and this time this is around, okay, the fourth, okay, what you call the fourth Syrian war, okay. So let's keep reading. Um, Now, when you go here, and it says, in those times, there shall many stand up against the king of the south, okay, because they dealing with, all right, Antiochus, okay, the great, like I said, he was, raising up these great armies, to invade the south. It says, also the robbers of thy people shall exalt themselves to establish the vision, but they shall fail. Okay, so now let's go into, all right, the reign of Antiochus the Great. Okay, to kind of see, because it said the robbers of thy people, which these were Jakes, there was joining themselves, okay, to the Seleucid, okay, throne, okay, because how did Antiochus the Great rule over Jake? Okay, because the remember the whole time Judea is in the middle of this, because Ptolemy has to cross Judea to get into Syria in Asia, and all right, the Ptolemaic kingdoms had to come across our land to get to Asia, and um, the Seleucid Empire will have to come to the south, coming through Jerusalem and Syria, all right, getting to Egypt. So we're in the middle of this, like we're literally in the middle of all this, man. All right. So let's get to Antiochus the Great. All right. I should have it already pulled up, going into his relationship with, all right, the Jews. All right. Um, let me see. I had it pulled up. Yeah, okay. This Antiochus the third said Antiochus, all right, the third resettled, all right. Say Israelite, say Ish, all right, 2,000 Israelite families from Babylon, all right, into the Hellenistic Anatolian regions of Lydia and Pergia, okay. Josephus portrayed him as friendly towards the Jews of Jerusalem, all right, and cognizant, okay, of their loyalty to him, okay. So Antiochus was known as friendly towards the Jews, but he was friendly toward the Hellenistic, our people that favorite, Hellenism. So this is because we're going to get into the Maccabees too. So this is about um a generation and a half before we get into Maccabees, the fourth chapter, or in Maccabees, the first chapter, when it speaks about our people wanting to make alliances with all right, the Greeks. Okay, so this was going on before. Okay, we get into the book of Maccabees. Jake was already, you know, becoming Hellenists and aligning themselves with, you know, the Greeks. Okay, and mainly the Seleucids. Okay, the Seleucid Empire. You know, and it says in stark contrast to the attitude of his son. In fact, Antiochus III lowered taxes, granted subventions of the temple, and let the Jews live, as Josephus put it, according to the law of their forefathers. Okay, and we're going to touch back on this when we get into the history of of uh, of the Maccabees. We're going to the Maccabees. Okay, so Antiochus, okay, he was friendly, so against the Hellenists of our people. Okay, and that's why, it says, and in those times there shall many stand up against the king of the south, also the robbers. Okay, now you see Jake, all right, Hellenistic Jake getting involved. Okay, because remember, this is the time of us becoming Hellenized, becoming a no people. Okay, Greeks. Okay, it says, so the king of the north shall come and cast up a mount and take the most fenced cities. Now, this is when Antiochus invaded. Okay, Antiochus the Great invaded the south. Okay, and he laid siege, to a fortified city named Sidon. Okay, so he's laying siege to this fortified city, Sidon, and the arms of the south shall not withstand. He starved them out. Neither his chosen people, okay, neither shall there be any strength to withstand. Okay, and it says his chosen people because during this war, okay, during this conflict, all right, Ptolemy, okay, um, we'll just go here, all right, because at this time, all right, you have yep. So Ptolemy, what he did, all right, he got a general from Anatolia. He pretty much hired a general, to deal, with the invasion, and say his chosen. Okay, so he pretty much hired a specialist, all right, named Scopus. Okay, this guy named Scopus. All right. Um, all right, just read about Scopus. Matter of fact, I'll copy and paste it. And so we can see it. But you go here to this guy, Scopus, which was hired by the king of the south, Ptolemy. Let me pull up. Okay. He was it says Scopus was an Anatolian general who served both his native Anatolian League, all right, in the social war in the Ptolemaic Egypt, okay, against the Seleucid with mixed success. Okay. He was he was executed at Alexander for conspiring to seize the power of the realm for himself. So, you know, Antiochus the Great, seized a fortified city named Sidon, and you had Scopus, which was an Anatolian general, chosen by Ptolemy, okay, to lead, his military against the invasion of Antiochus. Okay, so when you go into Daniel, and it says, so the king of the north shall come, an invasion, and cast up a mount, a siege, and take the most fenced city, Sidon, and the arms of the south shall not withstand the military, neither his chosen people. All right, Scopus. Okay, neither shall there be any strength to withstand. Okay, so the militaries of the South, led by Scopus, his chosen the general that he chose, they couldn't withstand, okay, that siege. He started a lot of them out, and Sidon fell. All right, but he that cometh against him shall do according to his own will, and none shall stand before him, and he shall stand in the glorious land which by his hand, okay, shall be consumed, because at that time, Ptolemy, the Ptolemaic Empire had, conquest of uh, Judea. Okay, but when he went and sieged Sidon, and Sidon fell on his way back, to Asia, all right, he came and subdued Judea, all right, Antiochus the Great, you know, and got Judea back to himself, the glorious land. Okay, and it says, verse 17. All right, he shall also set his face to enter with the strength of his whole kingdom. Okay, and upright ones with him. Thus shall he do, and he shall give him the daughter of women, corrupting her, but she shall not stand on his side, neither be for him. So at this time, all right, you have Antiochus the Great, okay, give his daughter, okay, to Ptolemy, which at this time you had Ptolemy, okay, let me see, look real quick. All right, you have Ptolemy Epiphanes. All right, Ptolemy Epiphanes. So Antiochus gives his daughter to Ptolemy Epiphanes, but it said that he corrupted her because he. All right, let me go back to the screen. So he gave his daughter to the king of the south. Okay, let me get this here. So he gave his daughter to the king of the south, Cleopatra. But he said he did it, okay, by corrupting her, because when you go to certain marriages, which they were supposed to seal alliances, all right, but these devils are so wicked, they will give their daughters in marriage, but pretty much they was doing that so they can have their bloodline in the courts of their enemies, okay, and she was pretty much sent on a mission to take, all right, the empire down from the inside. All right, but it didn't go right because she fell in love with Ptolemy. So she fell in love with Ptolemy Epiphanes. So they thwarted that plan. Okay, but it would play a part, to where the Seleucid Empire will get the upper hand, later on as we read, you know. So reading Daniel 17 again is that he shall also set his face to enter with the strength of his whole kingdom, and upright ones with him. Thus shall he do, and he shall give him the daughters of women, corrupting her, but shall not stand, all right, on his side, neither before him, because she pretty much, flipped sides, and became, loyal to Ptolemy because she fell in love with Ptolemy. All right, but she was really supposed to go in, as a corrupter, of the Ptolemaic dynasty, and cause, pretty much like a sleeper cell. Like I say, she fell in love. All right. So you also had at this time too, Antiochus, and the reason why he was able to come to that deal, because Antiochus the Great, he overtook, Ptolemy at that time, you know, so he had that leverage, to give his daughter, as a peace alliance, okay, but even that was all in corruption, okay. Verse 18, it says, and this shall he turn, okay, his face unto the isles, and shall take many, but a prince, all right, for his own behalf shall cause the reproach offered by him to cease. Without his own reproach, he shall cause it to turn upon him. So after, he pretty much gave Cleopatra, okay, to Ptolemy, okay, Ptolemy the Epiphanes at this time, and that plan was thwarted. Okay, so he started campaigning elsewhere. Okay, and let's go back to his history. Okay, to show you what that's speaking of, what verse 18 is speaking of. And this and Antiochus the Great, he's the first Seleucid king that would have run-ins with the Romans. Okay, that would eventually lead, to his doom. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, let's go back to Antiochus the third. All right, so I'm gonna read the precept, and then we're gonna go into it again. So this is Daniel 11 and 18. It says, and after this shall he turn his face unto the isles, and shall take many, but a prince, all right, for his own behalf shall cause the reproach offered by him to cease. All right, without his own reproach, he shall cause it to turn upon him. Okay, so he turned his attention to the isles. All right, and when you go into his history, you got to go into his run-in with the Romans. Okay, because he would turn his attention to the isles. So it's Antiochus, all right, and this is Antiochus the Great, all right, which was the third. Then moved to Asia Minor by land and by sea, okay, to secure the coast towns which belonged to the remnant of the Ptolemaic, all right, overseas dominions and the independent Greek cities. This enterprise earned him, all right, the antagonism of the Roman Republic, okay. So when you go here, when it says, after he shall turn his face unto the isles and shall take many, as we just read, he's taking those Ptolemaic, isles and coastlands. Okay, but a prince, all right, for his own behalf, okay, these are the Romans, okay, that will start to intervene on the enterprises of the Greeks, okay, under Antiochus the third. So you keep going, and it says since Smyrna, all right, and Lampsacus appealed to the Republic, which at the time acted as a defender of Greek freedom, the tension grew when Antiochus in 196 BC established a footing in Thrace. The evacuation of Greece by the Romans gave Antiochus his opportunities, and he now had the fugitive Hannibal. So Hannibal, which you read about, the Carthaginian general, okay, which there was a Jake, all right, during the Punic Wars of Rome. So Hannibal was in the courts of Antioch the Great at this time. It said at his courts to urge him on. So he pretty much hyping him up to go against Rome. In 192 BC, Antiochus invaded Greece with a 10,000 man army and was elected the commander in chief of the Aetolian League. In 191 BC, however, the Romans under Manius Acilius Glabrio routed routed him at Thermopylae, forcing him to withdraw to Asia Minor. Okay, which is fulfilling Daniel 11:18. The Romans follow up their success by invading Anatolia, and decisive victory of Scipio Asiaticus. All right, and there's some more history. This is what Asia is named after. Okay, now you go into Scipio Asiaticus. Okay, who is his people? All right, it says was a general and statesman of the Roman Republic. He was the son of Publius Cornelius, all right, Scipio, okay, the younger brother of Scipio Africanus, which is that's what Africa is named after. All right, so Asia and African are named after Roman generals. Okay, and when Jake called himself African American, which America is named after Italian map maker American Vespucci, which was an Edomite. All right, this is what Jake is calling themselves, man, after a Roman, all right, general. Okay, an Italian map maker. Okay, it says following the defeat of Hannibal at sea off offside, delivered Asia Minor into their hands by the Treaty of Amapi. All right, Apame. Antiochus abandoned all the country north and west of Tyrus, of the Tyrus Mountains, most of which the Roman Republic gave either to the Rhodes, all right, the Rhodes or the Attalid ruler, all right, Eumenes the second, okay, his allies. As consequences of this blow to the Seleucid power, the outlying provinces of the empire recovered by Antiochus reasserted their independence. Antiochus, all right, well, we're going to get that in a minute because it's going to read into it. Okay, so let's go back to Daniel. It's a Daniel 11:18. So this is, all right, what we're reading being fulfilled. Okay, as he went to go conquer, coastlands and islands. Okay, the Romans intervened. Okay, and put a cease to it. Okay, so after this shall he turn his face unto the isles and take many, but a prince for his own behalf shall cause reproach offered by him to cease without his own reproach, and he shall cause it, all right, to turn upon him. Then he shall turn his face toward the fort of his own land, okay, but he shall stumble and fall and not be found, okay, and this goes into his death, all right. And when you read, because then he shall turn his face toward the fort of his own land, all right, he really went to a temple, okay, a pagan temple, but he shall stumble and fall and not be found. So when you go into, all right, this is Antiochus mounted a fresh eastern expedition in Luristan, where he was killed while pillaging a temple. So he was, spoiling a pagan temple of Baal at Elamaeus, all right, and he was put to death. He was stoned to death, and they cut up all his pieces. They cut him up. So that's why scriptures say he wouldn't be found. Not only did they kill him, but they cut him up in pieces. So that was the end of Antiochus the Great. All right, they put him to death and they cut him up in pieces. Now, this is Daniel 11:20 said, then shall stand up in his estate a raiser of taxes, okay, in the glory of the kingdom. Now, this is Seleucus, his son Seleucus, okay, Philopator. All right, and it said he was a raiser of taxes. And why did he have to raise taxes? Because his father was in debt to the Romans when he died. Okay, so he called him a raiser of taxes. Okay, it said, then shall stand up in his estate a raiser of taxes in the glory of the kingdom, but within few days he shall be destroyed, neither in anger nor in battle. He was assassinated. Okay, and you can read, all right, real quick. It's on the book of Maccabees. Okay, because when we read about their story of Heliodorus, the captain, that was all right, beaten, okay, by an angel. Well, this was Seleucid Philippator that sent him to get those, that money from the temple, okay, and he was he was beaten to death, almost to death, okay. So you read that in the book of Maccabees, the third chapter, okay, and you read about solution, but for the sake of time, all right. But you read that Maccabees, the third chapter, is going into, during the reign of solution, he sent Helidor to get that money from the temple, all right, and Helidor was beaten almost to death, and he went back and say, look, if you got an enemy, you send him over there, So, um, put this chart back up. So this is where we at now. You look at the chart. Okay, we down. So you have solution. Okay, the Philippator. All right, he's just been put to death. Okay, and Heliodorus, because Heliodorus was the one that put him to death, the one that got whooped by the angel. He eventually put that nigga to death, man. You know, I can't do nothing with that angel, goddamn. But I'm gonna tear your ass up. Okay, so he put him to death, and what you have now is you keep reading, all right, because like Daniel 11, like he goes into like the tedious details of it. So this is Daniel 11:20. Then shall stand up in his estate a raise of taxes and the glory of the kingdom, but within a few days he shall be destroyed, neither in anger nor in battle. Okay, he adores. All right, put him to death. Okay, like that nigga was. Yeah, everybody hated that nigga because he raised them taxes, man. Trying to pay back Rome and still, trying to maintain, okay, his his lifestyle. Trying to maintain his lavish lifestyle. Okay, so he was put to death. Now, Daniel 11:21, it says, "And his estate shall stand up a vile person, to whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom." Now, this is Antiochus Epiphanes. Okay, the most hated, the villain that we read about in the Maccabees. Okay, Antiochus Epiphanes. You see, it says, "And in his estate shall stand up a vile person, to whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom." All right, because Antiochus, as we read, matter of fact, let's get First Maccabees real quick. Okay, because it goes into the history. Because when Seleucid, all right, Philopator, okay, was put to death, he had a younger son that was next in succession to be king. Okay, so when you read the Maccabees, okay, let me pull this up real quick. Yeah, the Bible got the history, man. This is what I've been learning these last couple of weeks. All this other history we go through, like if it don't line up with the Bible, you can throw it out. Now, some things, you have to speculate, extrapolate. Might not be exact, okay, but that's why we just stick closest, to what's written in the Bible. So you go to First Maccabees 1, okay. Now you get in verse 10. Yep. So this is Maccabees 1:10. It said, "There came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king," which he was a son of Antiochus the Great. Okay, but it says, "who had been in hostage at Rome." So when the Romans, and that's what the Romans would do. Let's say the Romans would take down the Gauls. Okay, well, they would take whoever the chief or whoever the king was they would take their sons, okay, and pretty much make their sons into Romans, okay. So that way, when the father died off, and they would install their sons on the throne as puppet kings under Rome. Okay, that was a thing that Rome would do. Okay, so Antiochus was like a thorn to the Romans. Okay, they kept getting calls, Antiochus the Great. So they took one of his sons, hostage, which was Antiochus, which he wasn't even in the succession for kingship. So you can, that he was probably hated by his father, like he probably was, a straight demon, So he gave that nigga up to the Romans, like, look, take this nigga. They're speculating because he wasn't in the succession. Like the scripture called him vile. So it says, who had been a hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. Okay, so when you go into his rise, how he got on the throne. That's why in Daniel, it says Daniel 11:21. It says, and in his estate shall stand up a vile person to whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom, but he shall come in peaceably, which he, um, the scriptures speak of, well, not the scriptures, but the history speaks about how, he was very flattering with his words. Okay, but he shall come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flatteries. Okay, so pretty much how he got on the throne, okay, was he came back, after the Romans found out his father was dead, they pretty much turned him loose to come back. And when he came back, he killed Helidorus. All right, had him executed. He removed Helidorus from power, had him executed. Then he would kill his little brother. Okay, and because his name was, I think, Mithridates was his name. Okay, but then he took on the name of Antiochus. All right, Epiphanes. Once he killed his brother, his infant brother, and took the throne. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna leave it there. All right, that's about halfway through the chapter. Okay, and Lord willing, tomorrow morning, Baratazar, I can come clean this up, get the rest of it. Like I say, it's tedious, and I know it's a lot to take in one sitting, so yeah, I'll break it in half. All right, we'll leave it right there because we done made it to Antiochus, and it's pretty much going to be about him. All right, and his workings, through the rest of the chapter, So yeah, Lord will, it was edifying. I know it was a lot, as I'm trying to make it concise as possible. Or if there's any questions, hey, feel free to leave them on the comment board, and we'll deal from there. So yeah, Lord will, matter of fact, let me go ahead and change this title and make it a part 1. Okay, and Lord will, we come back and do the part 2. All right. So yeah, Lord will, you brothers and you sisters edified. Till next time I say Shalom. Kwam Yashala. Bible Ball soon. Shalom.